Everyone who has ever written about Guns N' Roses get the story wrong. People say this band self-destructed. Too much drugs, too much ego, too much chaos. But here's what nobody mentions. Axl Rose never touched a not once. In the most self-destructive bands of the 80s, he was completely sober. And yet, he's the one history blames for everything that fell apart. Here's the second thing nobody tells you. The band's most chaotic era, the riots, the walkouts, the implosion, happened when Axl finally started gaining control, not losing it. Guns N' Roses wasn't destroyed by a man addicted to chaos. It was destroyed by a man terrified of it. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. In 1995, 5 completely unstable people collided in Los Angeles. They had no money, no structure, no safety net. They literally called the house they shared the Hell House. Half of them were already addicted to something. The other half were about to be. And somehow, none of that killed them. It made them immortal. When Appetite for Destruction came out in 1987, the world had a ready-made story for it. 5 self-destructive kids who got lucky. The chaos was the brand. The drugs were the myth. Critics wrote about the danger, fans bought the fantasy, and the narrative locked in fast. This was a band held together by nothing, running on pure disorder, destined to implode. That story is everywhere. It still gets repeated today. And it gets almost everything wrong. Because the band wasn't held together by chaos. It was held together by a very specific, very fragile tension between 5 people who couldn't have been more different. And one of them was working harder than anyone realized to keep that tension from tipping over. You just couldn't see it from the outside. Let's talk about Axl Rose, not the myth, the person. He grew up in a abusive home in Lafayette, Indiana. Violent, unpredictable. The kind of childhood where safety is never guaranteed, where you learn to read the room before you walk in, where your body stays tense even when nothing is wrong. Most people who survive that environment become the chaos themselves. It's the obvious outcome, the expected one. Axl Rose did the opposite. He became someone obsessed with eliminating chaos entirely. That single fact reframes everything. The late show is not ego, a survival mechanism. The paranoia, not arrogance. Hypervigilance. The obsession with control, not a rockstar whims. A child's defense against an unpredictable world. And here's the crack nobody noticed. Inside Guns N' Roses, for the first time in his life, chaos was working for him. 5 volatile personalities pulling against each other. And the friction became music. Axl didn't need to control the band. The tension did the work automatically. But the moment he felt that stability slipping, every instinct he held built to survive kicked in. And those instincts were not designed for a band. They were designed for a war. By 1991, Guns N' Roses were the biggest band in the world. And from the outside, everything looked like it was working. The Use Your Illusion tour, the massive shows, the mythologies growing larger by the months. People romanticized the chaos, the riots, the walks out, the unpredictability. It looked like power. The public version? A comfortable myth. But quietly, invisibly, the band was losing the two people who kept Axl emotionally regulated. Steven Adler was fired and Izzy Stradlin quit in the early 90s. And every time someone disappeared, Axl didn't become freer, he became more controlling. Stradlin wasn't just a guitarist. He was one of the only people Axl genuinely trusted. Not because he dominated the room, but because he could calm it without making Axl feel threatened. And Steven's drumming was imperfect in exactly the right way. It breathed. When Matt Sorum replaced him, the band became technically tighter, cleaner, more controlled, and somehow less alive. Do you think the people around a genius sometimes carry part of that genius with them and nobody notices until they're gone? Tell me what you think in the comments. I read everything. By the mid-90s, Axl Rose finally got what he had spent his entire life trying to build. Total control. No opposing voices. No Slash pushing back on the chord progression. No Izzy quietly stealing the room. No Duff translating between personalities. Just Axl, his vision, and complete authority over every decision. From the outside, it looked like liberation. By the mid-90s, several people around the band described Axl as becoming increasingly isolated and suspicious. The most striking stories involved his belief that people close to him were no longer who he thought they were. Think about what that tells you about the state of someone's mind. A man who had built his entire identity around controlling reality, watching reality stop behaving predictably, and his psyche fracturing under the weight of that impossibility. Slash left, then Duff, then everyone. And Axl spent the next 14 years making Chinese democracy, rotating cast of musicians, unlimited budget, complete authority. When it finally came out in 2008, it was genuinely good. But it didn't feel alive, because the instability was gone. And it turns out the instability was never the enemy. It was the engine. Go back and listen to November Rain. Most people hear a love song, a grand gesture, a romantic epic. They hear the orchestra and the wedding and Slash solo in a parking lot, and they feel something enormous and beautiful. The comfortable surface reading. But listen to the words.
Nothing lasts forever, and we both know hearts can change.
That's not romance. That's a panic attack disguised as a ballad. It's someone who cannot stop the people around him from leaving, no matter how much he tries to hold on. And Estranged goes even further. 9 minutes of someone watching their own life collapse from a distance, unable to reach back in. These songs were not written as concepts. They were written in the middle of psychological fracture by a man who understood that everything he loved was already living. That's why they still hurt people decades later. Not because they are well produced, because they are true. Axl Rose spent 20 years trying to remove the thing that made his music feel human. The uncontrollable, unresolvable tension at its core. And the more he removed it, the less it breathed. Guns N' Roses didn't collapse because they lost control. Bands lose control all the time and survive. Some of the greatest records in history were made inside total disorder. The disorder isn't the problem. It collapsed because one man spent a decade successfully gaining control, and in doing so, eliminated the exact conditions that had made the music worth caring about in the first place. Appetite for destruction required 5 unstable people pulling against each other simultaneously. The moment one voice took over completely, the friction disappeared. And the friction was the music. The tragic irony of Axl Rose is that the control he spent his whole life desperately chasing the stability, the order, the absence of chaos was the one thing that guaranteed the band could never feel like appetite for destruction again. He finally got everything he wanted. He just got it after everything that made it matter was already gone. That's all for me. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and until next time, stay curious. Au revoir.